Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Mental Health Wednesdays. I wanted to just sit here and chat with you guys about 5 signs that you are not okay. Keep watching. All right, so right now we're in a unique circumstance with the quarantine, with COVID. Many of us might have family members who contracted the virus. Some people have lost loved ones. It's a crazy time for everyone, right? Other than that, there are other stressors that can add up to what you may be going through. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about 5 signs that you are not okay after, I've spoken before on my channel that it's totally okay to not be okay, right? And it's very important to be in tune with your body, in tune with your emotions, and know when really you are not okay. I think a lot of times, we ignore these signs, and I just wouldn't recommend that, right? Because that ignoring the signs that could bring larger implications to your mental health, um it's just not it's just going to create greater challenges. And so anyway, let me without further ado, let me just start with the first sign that you are not okay, and meaning that you need to seek help, you need to seek more support. So the first sign is that you have already tried the coping skills that you need to feel okay. So to some people that's exercise, to some people that is going for a walk, to some people that is reading, right? Like there's so many coping skills out there. So if you've tried what normally works for you and you're still not okay, you're still feeling sensitive, you're still feeling emotionally exhausted, you're still feeling maybe depressed, right? And you're still feeling down, then take a look within yourself, right? I think in our nation, in our communities, it's very typical to be self-reliant. Well, I'm Latina, like in the Latino community, even in the Latino community, sometimes we can be self-reliant, right? Well, in my culture, like there's also usually that, like, oh, let me hang out with my family type of thing, right? But when it comes to mental health, we keep it a secret, right? And so when you've tried it all, when you've hung out with your family, when you've done all the things that are good for you and it still does not work, I would say maybe you might not be okay, right? And so that's one of the signs. All of these signs that I'm going to share, by the way, are not in a chronological order. It doesn't have to be in that order for you. But okay, so that's the first sign. The second sign is that you're like, okay, I've tried my coping skills, they don't work. It's time to talk to a friend. And maybe you've talked to 5 friends and like 5 family members, depending how private and open you are. I'm very open when it comes to, I'm like, okay, I need to talk to someone. And I do end up reaching out to family or to friends. But if you're very private and you're like, oh, I've talked to that one friend who usually helps, and that doesn't work anymore, I still feel empty, I still feel sad, I still feel angry, I've already like ran 5 miles and I'm still angry, like then that's another sign to you that you're still not okay. Number 3, you've tried to get distracted. You've already tried everything. You've tried to get distracted. So you watch maybe TV, you listen to music, you try different mediums to feel better. Maybe you have faith. Maybe you've prayed, right? Maybe you've journaled. Maybe you've done all of the things that are self-reflective for you after all of that, and you still are not okay. Then that's another sign to you, right? Like you're trying your best and you're still not feeling okay. And at that point, everything triggers you. Reading triggers you, watching TV triggers you. Like you're crying by something that normally wouldn't make you cry, or maybe you're not crying, but you're just sensitive to that, right? So that's a sign that you are not okay. Another sign, number 4, is at that point you already know, or you might have a sense that you're not okay, but you're still, putting on a mask. You're still laughing. You're still with your friends. Like you're still laughing. You're still being your I guess usual self. But in your heart, you know that you're not your usual self. In your heart, you know that something's missing, that something's off about you. So, number 4 is you're putting on a mask, but deep down, you know that you're not okay, right? And maybe even your closest friends might tell, like, hey, he or she is still having fun with us, but I can tell that he or she is not okay, right? So, and all power to those friends and family who notice it and will come up to you and say, hey, are you okay? So this video is completely informational as an individual, right? To build awareness of like, you know what, like I'm really not okay, right? I've been pretending that I'm not okay. But this video is also for friends and family that see maybe that loved one that's going through something and you're like, wait, so-and-so is not okay, right? And it is important to check in with our loved ones, especially those that appear that they have it all together, or that on the surface they're like, no, yeah, and maybe they're so strong and they're the people that you would reach out to for help, or maybe, they even give good advice, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're always okay, right? So being mindful of what you see in a loved one, right? I think, it's one of the things that you can notice from your loved ones is that there's things that that they typically would normally do and they're no longer doing, or it's just not typical behavior of them. You would say like, hey, so and so is not okay, even though on the surface they're like smiling and everything, like, no, I'm okay, I'm fine, but or maybe you have a gut feeling, right? So definitely um NAMI also has support groups for friends and family of those who struggle with mental. NAMI also has support groups for friends and family of those who struggle with mental illness on how to reach for help. And again, just like a parenthesis, mental illness. There's a lot of stigma on mental illness. Mental illness doesn't mean someone who needs to be in a psychiatric hospital at all times, or they need to, they're crazy. That doesn't mean that someone's crazy. Mental illness can be like anxiety, right? Could be depression, can be there's also a bipolar disorder, or borderline personality disorder. I mean, there's just a range of disorders, but like there's so much more to that person's identity than the mental illness that they struggle with, right? So it is important to be informed, right? Like for example, I love celebrities who bring awareness about this, like maybe like Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez. Like they struggle, like they identify, well, not identified, but they've said, I struggle with I struggle with bipolar disorder, right? And one of the signs that they saw is that they were overworking themselves, right? Like they were just pushing through, right? And like, that could be like a sign of, oh, that person's resilient, that person works hard. But what if like on the weekends they're self-medicating, right? What if on the weekends they're doing other things to kind of release that tension? So somebody who's overworking themselves doesn't necessarily mean that they're okay. Maybe that means that they need to slow down, and that they need rest, and that they need a support system that's around them to check in on them as well. So that's that for family and friends of people who are struggling to keep in mind. All right, so that's number 4. Number 5, and this is very, very important, right? You're having fleeting, passive, or even active thoughts of suicide, right? Or self-harm, right? Like, so you're thinking about, I'm worthless, I'm nobody, I'd be better off dead, it's better if I release this tension with, you self-medicate, maybe like to release this tension by self-medicating with whatever the drug of choice is, alcohol, sex, love. There's love addicts, there's codependency, right? Like there's different drugs of choice out there. So if you're thinking about acting in ways that are self-destructive, you are definitely not okay, right? So if any of these signs, again, before it gets to the point where you're suicidal, before you're thinking of self-harm, before you're thinking of self-medicate, do like a mental check-in, right? Like, have I rested? Have I had water? Have I reached out to my support system? And if you've like I said, if you've already done that, and you're still not okay, it's definitely time to seek for professional help, therapy, support groups. I'm gonna link down below some resources for you. NAMI offers free support groups for people who struggle with mental illness. If you're having if maybe you never knew that you were depressed, right? Like some people don't know that they're depressed. Maybe they've been depressed for the longest of times, right? So maybe you didn't know that you were depressed before, but now you can. There are ways of seeking help, seeking that education. By the way, I'm going to continue Mental Health Wednesdays, and I am going to share more science specific. I just wanted to make this video more general, but I am going to share more specific signs like on depression, more specific signs on anxiety, different mental health disorders. Yeah, I just think that it's very important to do those mental health check-ins. And if you're not a self-aware person, there's people who are not, and you have friends that are telling you, listen to them, right? Listen, take a step back and listen, right? Listen to all of the signs. If I've already spoken to your friends about how you're feeling, and it helps, but you're still not okay, it doesn't mean that your friends are not giving you good advice. I mean, some of them can give bad advice, but like I know that I have friends who, when I talk to them, I feel better. But even if after I spoken to these friends who are super insightful, I'm like, wait, I'm still kind of not okay, right? Like I'm still not myself. Like, that's time to seek outside support, right? Seek professional help. So yeah, don't let it get to the point where you're having fleeting thoughts, you're having suicidal thoughts. Now, if you're having fleeting suicidal thoughts or fleeting thoughts of self-harm, or even active thoughts of self-harm, well, let me differentiate. If it's fleeting, if it's passive, definitely reach the suicide hotline. Well, either way, reach the suicide hotline. They're amazing. I've been a practicing therapist for quite some time, for some years, right? For a long time actually, and I've I know that the suicide hotline can be good, right? Like they're not all therapists there. They're volunteers who are trained. They are trained to do crisis intervention, right? But what I'm trying to say is that they are very helpful, or they are very resourceful. So talk to a suicide hotline, and also they can call 911, right? If this is you're in imminent danger, and if this is like active thoughts of suicide, active thoughts of self-harm, definitely call 911, right? I think, it's very important to reach support, right? It's, I don't want to say that it's, sometimes we think, oh, I'm an adult, like, I don't need any help. I've relied on myself for many, many years. But still, like, we all need help. We all need support, and it's okay to not be okay. What's not okay is to stay stuck. What's not okay is to not reach out for help. as hard as it may be to be vulnerable in those areas. So yeah, so those are the 5 signs for you. If you have questions, definitely link them down below. Again, this video is not a replacement for therapy or for any type of treatment. It's just for informational purposes. And yeah, I want to let you guys know that I am bilingual and I speak Spanish, and I'm gonna be doing some videos in Spanish as well, because also in the Latino community, we don't normally talk about these things, and I would love to do a video in Spanish for you guys. And let me know down below if that's something you're interested in, but it's something that's been on my mind for some time. And yeah, so those are the 5 signs. And let me know if you guys have any other ideas, okay, for any other topics surrounding mental health that you are interested in. So yeah, so that's that for this video. And like I said, any questions you might have, anything that's, anything that you're like, hey, Katie, I really want to learn, or I really want to have more awareness about this topic, please let me know. And yeah, I'll be sure to keep that in mind for Mental Health Wednesdays. And definitely, I really want this platform that I have to help break the stigma of mental illness, right? That we all need help. We all need support. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on my next video. Bye.